Hi, gang, it's me, Miss Ledber, and we're here today to talk a little bit about the pillars of faith in Islam and how Muslims actually practice their faith. But to kind of go back and look at, you know, what we had talked about, one of the things that we finished with yesterday is our conversation about Muhammad and Muhammad's life. And so I wanted to kind of do some review here and look back on some of the things that we discussed. This picture right here is actually a primary source. It is a drawing depicting a specific time in Muhammad's life where he flies on his horse from Mecca to Jerusalem to speak to God. When he does that, God actually reveals to him the words of the Quran, which we're going to talk about today. And so I wanted to show you this picture. Now, in all pictures of Muhammad, you'll probably see him with this fiery gold kind of background around him. And in a lot of cases, he does not have a face. That is because he really didn't want people to idolize or memorialize him or start to pray to him like a god. So he made sure that that was part of that process. Additionally, we have, when Muhammad actually went to Jerusalem and talked to God, God told him specifically to go on a trip to leave Mecca and to go to Medina. If you recall, that's called the Hijra. And this is an example. This is Muhammad again, and he's fighting off those people who are continually trying to kill him, coming from Mecca to Medina. Here's another example of that. You can see again, his face is kind of blotted out. He has this fiery gold fire around him, and he is, leading his men, trying to get people to convert to Islam. So that is what we kind of ended with yesterday. We also talked about the fact that jihad is a really important rite of passage when it comes to Muslims. This would be an example of what Muhammad was preaching when he was talking about jihad. He specifically said that jihad can come in two forms. One is to better yourself, and the other, of course, is to defend Islam. Now, if you're going to defend Islam, you only have two options here. One, you need to make sure that the person that you're fighting has a weapon in their hand. And secondly, you cannot kill innocents, women, children, elderly. Those are the people that you cannot kill. So in this case, Muhammad was getting his men to go on a jihad to carry his message from Medina back to Mecca again, to try and clean out what was happening in that city, that holy city of his faith. So, to kind of put a cap on what happened here, please make sure that at this point you have your notebook open. Pause the video if you need to get your notebook open, but go ahead and open your notebook. This is the last kind of point that I want to make before we finish where Islam originated. And so I would like you to put these words into your notebook where it says over 10 years, Mo, which is obviously this is Mr. Herman's slide because Miss Lumber would write that. Over 10 years, Muhammad's armies conquer Arabia, and the idols in the Kaaba, those false idols, those things that they were keeping in that large black box, those are eliminated. And we actually see a shift in the people, Arabs who are living there. They go from kind of like this polytheistic uh, religion where they're worshiping idols, and they go back to being a monotheistic faith and worshiping one God, God Yahweh, God of the Jews and the God of the Christians. This is a pretty good map, and I would encourage you to go ahead and find a map in Google search that looks something like this. The spread of Islam map would be something that I would write in my Google search, and you're going to come up with quite a few different maps um, where you can see the spread of Islam and the years that happened. This is actually a pretty good one. I would encourage you to kind of pick something like this, or maybe something like this, and we'll copy it and go ahead and put it into our notebook. So it looks like this. We might have to shrink it a little bit. And so we want to definitely understand and look at how quickly and how fast this idea of Islam spreads. So if we go back to our original map here, we'll see, obviously Mecca and Medina here are the two holy cities, okay? And this is where Muhammad is going to spend most of his time spreading his message. He's then going to get his people to go out and teach others about Islam. So this first wave is the dark green. This is the conquest of Muhammad. Muhammad actually dies pretty suddenly. And in the process, one of the things that he says to his followers is, you have to go out and tell other people about this faith. So they do very quickly. And so this is his reign, and then after he passes, a next wave of his followers go out and encourage others to become Muslim. This is that second kind of green color, okay, from 632 to 661. Now remember, AD stands for Anno Domini, which we have now kind of changed into CE, which is Common Era. And then we have this third wave that's going to go into Spain, these yellow parts, into India, and these countries still remain primarily Muslim countries today. People live there, still follow the teachings of Muhammad in those places. So let's talk about some Islamic beliefs. So we want to add kind of like a new page. I would go ahead and add a new page to my notebook. So I would go up here to the drop down. I would click this, and we just finished page 4. So I'm going to go ahead and type in page 5 here. Islam notes, page 5. And our new kind of topic here is going to be Islamic beliefs, okay, and traditions. So things that Muslims believe, things that are important to their faith, we're going to include here in our notebook. I'm going to put a little, give myself a bullet here, and I'm going to start to add the information as I put it in. So the first thing, and we've kind of alluded to this already, Muslims are people who follow the Islamic faith, which is different than, and we talked about this yesterday. Their name is different. It's based on the fact that the word Muslim actually means one who submits. So go ahead and write that into your notebook, and make sure, of course, that you are making this a vocabulary word by highlighting it with a different color and making it bold. One who submits. Okay, and so of course in Mr. Herman land, we're going to make that red, we're going to make that bold, and we'll go from there. Additionally, the word Quran, which could be spelled with a K, or sometimes you'll see it with a QU. The word Quran, also a vocabulary word, is the Islamic holy book. Okay, this would be similar to the Bible or the Torah, books that we consider holy and special, that include the rules and regulations of their faith. Okay, so I put this in my notebook as both with a K, like I put on the slide, and then a QU, because you'll see it both ways. And in fact, your spell check might actually underline that and ask you to change it to a Q. So I want to make sure that you get that and you understand how that works. Okay. Additionally, we have these things called the pillars of faith. And this is where we're going to spend most of our time today, discussing these pillars of faith. The idea of the pillars of faith is that they are 5 different things that every good Muslim must do. Okay? Some of them require you to do it every day. Some of them require you to do it several times a day. Some it's a season, some it's a specific time of year, but in each instance all 5 are things that every good Muslim must do. You must think of it kind of like maybe the 10 Commandments if you were a Jew, or maybe the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus talks about the Beatitudes. They are things that every person who believes in that faith must follow. And so in this case, there are 5. Now, I'm going to ask you to understand and know both the Arabic and the English of those words so that we can understand a little bit better of what that means to us as we go through these pillars of faith. Okay? So the first pillar of faith is the Shahada. So go ahead and write that into your notebook. Make sure that you have labeled these pillars of faith. And the first one is the Shahada, which literally translates into there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Okay? If you look on the slide, I actually have the Shahada written out for you, which is kind of unique and a little bit. Remember, Arabic is a little bit different. It looks way different than English. And so, in fact, when you're looking at Arabic, we read this direction from left to right. In Arabic, they read from right to left. So not only do they have a different kind of um, lettering system and everything that goes with that, but they also read in the opposite direction. So it's sometimes really, really hard to understand Arabic. And if you're fluent in Arabic, that's a really important thing. Lots of different, a lot of countries speak Arabic, and this would help you get some jobs in a lot of interesting places. So this Shahada picture, I want to put into our notebook. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my notebook over here so you can see it. And then I'm going to do a Google search for Shahada. Okay. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go ahead and stick it into my notebook so I can see what it looks like. Now, of course, it has that crazy like background. I don't really care about that, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I'm going to stick it up here, and I'm going to call that one done. Okay? So the first pillar of faith is Shahada. In fact, when you actually convert to Islam, you have to say the Shahada in front of witnesses. So this is kind of like you be like becoming a Muslim. And so you say the Shahada in front of witnesses, and then you are actually considered Muslim. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to write number 2. And the second pillar of faith, I'm going to get this out of your way. The second pillar of faith is called Salat. Okay, Salat. And in this case, this word means praying 5 times a day facing Mecca. Now, this happens a lot. Um, it happens, oops, let's go back. It happens morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and night. So 5 times. They change those times all, like it's not a set time. It's not like 2 o'clock. It's more like where the sun is positioned. And so all of the times change every day. So you need to really pay attention to what's going on. Now, every Muslim, when it's time to pray, they would get out a prayer mat and they would go through this process of kneeling. Mr. Herman actually has a prayer mat. Um, Maybe we can find a picture of one here. Muslim prayer mat. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so a prayer mat would look like this. It's something that you would kneel on just so that you don't get your pants dirty. It's not like holy or anything. And usually you would face it in the direction of Mecca. Now, I'm sitting in my classroom, and north right now is to my right. Okay, so Mecca would somewhere be directly behind me. Everyone prays in the direction of Mecca, no matter where you are in the world at those particular times. If you live in a Muslim country, in fact, everything stops, like stops. It's kind of interesting. So, um, and you would face what we would call a mosque. Okay, so this is an example of a mosque, and this is called right here a minaret. And see how like it has these like little doors and this big top part right here. What would happen is people during prayer times would climb up in this minaret, and from this very top, they give the Muslim call to prayer. Okay, so this is what it sounds like, hopefully. أشهد أن لا Now, it's pretty interesting that this group of people, um, the worshippers of Islam, have decided that prayer 5 times a day is really, really important. For me, it's interesting because if I'm focused to remember that I have to pray 5 times a day, then generally speaking, I'm probably during those off times still thinking about praying or preparing for praying. And I would probably be a better person from the standpoint that I probably wouldn't be like doing bad stuff because I would be thinking about God a lot more. Um, it's just an interesting idea. And so one of the things that is the pillar of faith. So this is a mosque right here. This is where people would actually worship, and they would go into this building and they would pray. This is the inside of a mosque, and you can see by the rug here how it's divvied up in this special way so that people will actually come in and they will find a spot like a chair and they will kneel and pray in those spots. Okay, so I have found this video that I really like about this guy who kind of gives us a tour of what a mosque looks like. So let's do that.
Welcome to New Peckham Mosque. This is our humble place of worship, and I'm going to do my best to show you around. Yeah, so it's very important before you pray to make the intention to what it is you want to do. So you intend everything before you actually do it. You reinforce it in your own self. So you make the intention, I'm going to make ritual ablution or wudu to wash yourself before you pray. So you would come in here, use the toilet if you need to, in any way you'd like. You should really make sure that you've got no urine left on you anywhere. It's unclean. The God is unclean. You don't need any of that on you. So quite often we see people wandering around for a minute or two. So any loose drops, I know it sounds crazy, but it's all about cleanliness. Very important. We take our shoes off after we've washed ourselves. We don't want to bring anything from the outside inside. So obviously we need to keep the carpet clean because we actually pray here. So the shoes are taken off and placed on the shelf. There's no contact between the shoes with the surface that we pray on. This it's quite a big area, as you can see. It can probably hold altogether probably 2,000 or 3,000 people in here. And the main focus of any mosque is its direction of prayer and the place where the Imam would give his sermon from. So this is called a mimbar. As you can see, the steps leading, in various designs and shapes and styles. This particular one is a sort of traditional Turkish type of mimbar. They're quite high up normally because many of the mosques are quite large. So the Imam needs to be heard and needs to be above the level of the congregation so they can actually see and hear him. Not that he's any better than them, I hasten to add. So the Imam would use the mimbar and give a sermon from there, and next to it is the mihrab. This is a prayer niche that faces the Kaaba in Mecca, which is in the Holy House, Baytul Haram. We face that way in prayer, that direction in prayer, in all our prayers, in fact. So this is facing Mecca, basically. The black stone, as they say, the Holy House, Baytul Haram. The focus is here. This is where everybody focuses. And as you can probably see, even the carpet is pointing that way. And if I gave you a share of my bounty and continue to do so, you, on the other hand, would not even tolerate providing you an equal thing. Here it is. You can see behind me we have inscriptions on the wall. These are names of very important people in Islam. You can see to the right, as you look up, Allah, this is God. To the left, you can see Muhammad, who's the name, who is the Prophet of Islam. Who's quite traditional in Turkish mosques. You'll see these names in Turkish mosques in particular, along with the Caliph al-Rashidin, or the rightly guided Caliphs, who were our Prophet's successor and basically presided over Islam not that long after our Prophet passed away. Men and women pray separately in mosques. There are quite deep-rooted reasons for these. I don't know if it's involved to go into now, but basically they pray separately. This is the ladies' entrance, and the entrance we came in earlier is the gentleman's entrance. I'm just going to take a walk up the stairs to the ladies' This here is the ladies' prayer area, and much the same as downstairs. It faces towards the Kaaba and the Holy House in Mecca. And even though it may look a bit smaller than downstairs, it still is quite a fair size. And again, on holy days during Ramadan, this would be pretty full with all the ladies bringing lots of food in for us to eat for iftar, which is after a breakout fast. The main thing is that we need to focus on our prayers. And at the risk of sounding um, a little bit pompous, the nature of men and women is such that if you were to see a pretty woman, it might just take your mind off what you're supposed to be concentrating on, as I'm sure what happens we go about our daily lives. We want to separate that when we come into the mosque.
So you can see that in a lot of cases, these men and women are very, very devout. They go to the mosque, the temple, um, very often. They pray 5 times a day. They declare their intent, which is to worship God, that He is the one and only God for them. And so they do this very religiously, meaning they do it often and they do it purposeful, which is um, which is why some things that they do are misinterpreted. We're going to stop there for today. We still have 3 pillars left. So join us again tomorrow to get through the last 3 pillars of faith of Islam. Have a good day. See ya.